To urge my colleagues to join me in opposing the confirmation of Congressman Tom Price to be Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. Congressman Price has a long political record in Washington of siding with big business and not American families. He's led efforts that would force families to lose their health care coverage, that would end Medicare as we know it, and increase costs for our seniors, and that would let politicians choose what health care is best for women and their doctors. Perhaps most troubling, though, are recent revelations about Congressman Price's deep and ethically questionable financial ties to health companies that are looking to turn a profit. The people of Wisconsin elected me to the United States Senate to stand up to powerful interest, to stand up for the working people of my state. And they surely did not send me to the United States Senate to take people's health care away. So that is why I simply cannot vote for a nominee whose financial activities with health companies raise such serious ethical questions, and who has repeatedly opposed measures that would improve the health of our hardworking middle-class families in America. Now, Madam President, during his time in Congress, reports show that Congressman Price traded more than $300,000 in shares of health companies while he was advancing health-related legislation that could directly impact these companies' profitability. Congressman Price's financial disclosures show that he has purchased stock in medical device companies, leading pharmaceutical companies, and medical equipment companies. He also led a number of legislative efforts to restrict or delay implementation of several Medicare programs that would have impacted reimbursement for these very industries. Madam President, I don't know who Congressman Price is working for. Is he working for the American people, or is he working for the powerful corporations to help advance his financial interests and his investments in them? This ethically questionable activity raises too many unanswered questions about his professional judgment and his ability to fairly lead a department that is charged with protecting the health of all Americans. Even more troubling are reports that he had access to a special private deal to buy discounted stock in an Australian biomedical firm, Innate Immunotherapeutics. Reports show that he received this special deal from his colleague in the House, Congressman Chris Collins, who sits on the company's board and is their largest investor. Now, I sent a letter asking Congressman Price to explain his relationship, his involvement with Innate Immuno, and how his relationship with Congressman Collins influenced those purchasing decisions, but he hasn't responded. His financial dealings raise serious concerns about potential Stock Act and insider trading law violations. And that's why I have called on the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to investigate his stock market trading activities. Mr. President, these questions must be answered, and his stock trading should be fully investigated before the Senate is able to adequately consider his nomination. And yet, we are probably hours from the vote without all the information. While there are so many unanswered questions about Congressman Price's ethical judgment, there is a lot that we do know about his record as a politician that is deeply concerning. We know that Congressman Price wants to end Medicare as we know it and raise costs for our senior citizens. Medicare is a promise to current and future generations that guaranteed health care will be there for them when they need it. Congressman Price wants to break that promise to millions of seniors across this country. He has spearheaded proposals that would convert Medicare into a voucher system, essentially privatizing Medicare. He also supports raising the eligibility age for participation in Medicare, forcing hardworking Americans to wait to receive the benefits that they have already earned. His dangerous proposals would force seniors to pay more and would jeopardize guaranteed access to the Medicare benefits they have today. But you don't need to take my word for it, Mr. President. Listen to the thousands of Wisconsinites who have written to me just since the start of this year, urging me to oppose Congressman Price's confirmation and to fight against any efforts that would take away their Medicare benefits. Richard from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, is just one of those Wisconsinites. Richard and his wife are now retired and on Medicare. He wrote to say, "We both spent decades in teaching, and while we knew it would never get us rich, we believed we were doing important work with our students. Both of us felt secure in knowing that Medicare would be there for us when we left the profession and moved on to our retirement years." Richard cannot understand why politicians like Congressman Price are proposing to fundamentally change a system that has worked well for decades. He told me, "Now we feel as if our world is being turned upside down." Congressman Price's views are not only out of touch with America's seniors, but they are also, interestingly, in direct conflict with President Trump's promise not to cut Medicare. Price's legislative record also conflicts with President Trump's public commitments to improve this program by allowing Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices for our seniors. Just this week, the White House confirmed the president's support for this proposal again. Yet, during his hearing before the Senate Health Committee, Congressman Price refused to answer my questions when I repeatedly asked him if he would commit to standing with the president and with American seniors by supporting Medicare negotiation of better prescription drug prices. We don't know where he stands on this issue, but we do know that Congressman Price does not stand with the seniors, and he does not stand for protecting the guarantee of Medicare coverage that our families rely on. We also know that Congressman Price does not stand for the millions of Americans who rely on health care coverage and protections available under the Affordable Care Act. Congressman Price almost personifies the Republican agenda and battle to repeal the Affordable Care Act and all of its benefits and protections, which would force 30 million Americans to lose their current insurance through participation in the program. He has led the effort in the House to take away guaranteed health coverage and has championed really dangerous measures that would put insurance companies back in charge of health care and lead to higher costs and more uncertainty for American families. Congressman Price's agenda is putting the health coverage of over 200,000 Wisconsinites at risk. I'd like to share a story of Sheila. Sheila's from Neenah, Wisconsin. She is a small business owner and relies on the premium tax credits that helped her purchase her health plan through the marketplace. She wrote, and I quote, "I just wanted to let you know how devastating it would be for me and my family if the Affordable Care Act is repealed. To take away the subsidies would pretty much turn the plan into the Unaffordable Care Act." Sheila said that the premium tax credits under the law have made it possible for her to buy decent insurance for the first time in her whole career. I'm listening to Chelsea. Chelsea's from Shelby, Wisconsin. Her daughter, Zoe, was born with a congenital heart defect. At just 5 days old, Zoe needed to have open heart surgery. Chelsea said, quote, "The Affordable Health Care Act protects my daughter. I'm pleading to you as a mother to fight for that and follow through on that promise. There are so many kids in Wisconsin with heart defects, as well as other kids with pre-existing conditions that are counting on you to protect that right." I'm listening to Maggie, who attends college in De Pere, Wisconsin. Maggie was diagnosed with cancer in 2015. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, she was able to stay on her parents' health insurance, which covered most of her care. The Affordable Care Act also ensured that Maggie did not face lifetime limits on coverage for her multiple rounds of chemotherapy and radiation. And thankfully, Maggie is now cancer-free. But Maggie is terrified that if the law's benefits are repealed, that she could face a situation where her chemo isn't covered if she ever needs it again. She also fears being denied coverage because of her pre-existing condition, or not being able to stay on her parents' plan. During my time serving in the House of Representatives, I championed the provision in the Affordable Care Act that allows young adults like Maggie to remain on their parents' health plan until age 26. Congressman Price would take that away, as well as other protections that Maggie relies on, and instead go back to letting the insurance companies decide what to do. During his Help Committee hearing, I asked him directly if he supports the current requirement that insurance companies cover young adults until age 26. And essentially, he refused to answer my question, but instead said that he trusts insurance companies to do this on their own. He said, "I think it's baked into insurance programs." Our future leaders, like Maggie, can't just afford to take his word for it that insurance companies will choose to protect their care. The stakes are too high when it comes to accessing the life-saving health care for cancer or other serious conditions. Mr. President, as I travel my state, I listen and I hear the voices of people who are struggling. Too many feel that Washington is broken and it isn't working for them. People are scared because they can't make ends meet and provide a better future for their children. We need to change that. And our work here should be focused on making a difference in people's everyday lives. I'm concerned, if confirmed as Secretary of Health and Human Services, Congressman Price would make it harder for people to get ahead. I'm concerned that he'll work with special interests who already have too much power here in Washington, instead of working for the Wisconsin families that I was sent here to serve. For all these reasons, Mr. President, Congressman Price is not the right choice for Secretary of Health and Human Services, and I urge my colleagues to oppose his confirmation. And I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from